well-known Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times, has never been more true than it is today, with what's going on, not just south of the border, but what's going on in the Middle East, in too many places to point to. The environment to sustain the society in which we have grown up and wish to continue to live is getting more and more challenging all the time, particularly for the business community, from whose efforts, in fact, our lifestyle is paid for, is created. The federal government has, of course, brought out its spring financial statement, and I think the Prime Minister has been true to the speeches he began to give as soon as he assumed office. And he is going to drive a fundamental change in the Canadian economy, some fundamental changes. Interprovincial trade barriers are, of course, on the list and are coming down and must come down. But we're reshaping our trading patterns, not to ignore the US market. For heaven's sake, I mean, first of all, the United States is very dependent on a wide range of products from Canada. They have to buy our petroleum, they've got to buy our uranium, they've got to buy potash. There's a whole range of things. Never mind the fact that the bottom line is business actually is about product, but trust. And there's a huge amount of trust between business people in the United States and business people in Canada. Of course there is. The families, look, the 6th largest Canadian city is Los Angeles. Those ties will not be disrupted. But the stress and strain that's being placed on business today is unbelievable. And particularly for companies that are in the Saanich Peninsula, the industrial group. For many of those companies, they don't have Canadian customers. They serve the world from this amazing location. Now, as a grumpy taxpayer, looking at municipal government, and it is in municipalities where the economy is actually created, so far I look in vain for any municipal council to take into account what's going on all around them. When they do their budgets, they seem very much, and I guess one can understand that, to look inwards. And then when they do have to look outwards, they look for examples that will strengthen their case they're trying to make inside the municipality, all of which is fine, except where you've got the Greater Victoria and I would say Metro Vancouver, because those are two economies. They're not 35 economies. The CRD is one economy. It's a dynamic, outward-looking, competitive, brilliant place with everything that Richard Florida ever wrote about in his wonderful book, Creative Communities. Greater Victoria is a creative community. But the stresses and strains being placed upon governments and companies at some point has to be reflected in municipal budgeting and priorities. And as a grumpy taxpayer, we've talked for years about harmonizing services. Amalgamation, and there's, of course, is an extremely interesting process going on between Victoria and Saanich, which is very important, and the citizens have an opportunity there to make an amalgamation decision themselves individually in the ballot box. That's terrific. But around the 13, there are tremendous opportunities to harmonize services that will reduce costs to the taxpayer. We've already used the simile of taxpayers in this region having to ski up a tax mountain the way skiers do now in the Winter Olympics for the first time. This must stop. It must stop for what's going on, the craziness, frankly, that's going on around us. How can any business right now be doing anything like medium-term planning, never mind long-term planning?
Yes.
So the municipalities have got to get into a frame of mind of thinking that maybe next year they'll have less to work with than they have today. And maybe we don't need 18 fire chiefs. Maybe we don't need 5 police forces. Maybe there's a way of harmonizing services and preserving the municipal governments and the wonderful lifestyle that we all enjoy. But the situation is getting extremely urgent every time you turn around. The current American administration is stirring a pot. Well, it's not just their pot, and it's not just a federal government pot. It's not just a challenge for the provinces. It is a challenge that every municipality has at least got to be aware of. And the time to resist what everybody in this region, all 460,000 people who live in the region, all taxpayers shake their heads at the thought of 18 fire chiefs. Nobody can believe it. Well, it's time for the politicians to catch up to the public and recognize that, as Mr. Carney did a year ago, it was not a time for chatting, not a time for consultation in the broad sense. It's a time for absolute urgent action. And I would say the current budget cycle at the municipal level has not given us a lot of reason for encouragement. It better soon.